Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race, we are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 317 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited you are here and excited for the randomness of 2022 that allowed for this episode to happen. Now, today I am very excited to tell you that Together Runs led me to meet an actress who I really loved in a show that I'd been watching for 4 seasons. She shared about Together Runs, how much she enjoyed Together Runs, how powerful they were, and just said some really kind words. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And so I asked her to be on the podcast and she said yes. So here we are, and I'm excited to welcome Juno Rinaldi to Running for Real. Now, Juno is an actress, a writer, a producer, and I knew her because of her role as Frankie in Workin Moms, which you may have seen on Netflix or some other provider that you watch, especially if you are a woman, a mum. That this obviously is what the show was created for. But we talk about Juno's, the impact running has had on her life and her work. But we go so far beyond that. We talk about failure, about leaping for things and when they don't work out, about being okay with failure, and so much more. So I'm very excited for you to get to meet her. Let's go in and meet Juno Rinaldi. Thank you to Athletic Greens for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. Now, you've heard me talking about Athletic Greens for years now. It allows you to say goodbye to piles of pills and countless powders. One daily serving of AG1 delivers this potent blend of 9 health products, a multivitamin, minerals, probiotics, adaptogens, and more. It's the comprehensive foundational nutrition you need with the convenience for your life demands. Now, that applies to me in a way I cannot even describe. With 2 young kids, I know I should be getting 27 different fruits and vegetables in a day, but honestly, some days I'm lucky if I can get 1 or 2 at dinner. And it is difficult for me to take care of myself with just this hectic life that I live. So while I want to make these green juices every morning, with a juicer machine with the kale and the ginger and the lemon and all those other things, I just don't have the time for it. I can barely get to stuff something down my throat to eat. And I love that I can wake up before the girls wake up, drink down my 1 scoop of Athletic Greens with ice cold water, drink it down, know that I've got 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food source ingredients to start my day, so that even if that day ends up being hectic and running around all over the place, I know I've got that in. It tastes good. It's almost a slight pineapple-y taste. I love drinking it before I run. I drink it and go immediately out the door. It's going to help with your gut health. It's going to support your immunity. It's going to boost your energy and help with recovery. What more can you ask for with 1 scoop? So you can go to athleticgreens.com/Tina. You will get 5 free travel packs and a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. Now, as we head into the winter months, that is when we need that vitamin D, and it works well with the K3 as well to absorb better. We need those to protect us from all the nasty sicknesses that are coming around. So be sure to go to athleticgreens.com/Tina to go check out my special offer and stop stressing about not getting those fruits and vegetables in. This is going to take care of you. Juno, thank you so much for joining me today on the Running for Real podcast. This is very surreal, but I'm very excited to talk to you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I think we have to explain first how we ended up on this conversation, because I have to tell you, you shared, I was so grateful for and appreciative of, you shared about my Together Runs on your social media. And when I saw that, I went over to my husband and I said, Steve, who is this? I was like, I know her. I know her well. Like, who is, like, do we know her? And he was like, I have no idea who that is. And I was like, we know her. Like, who is this? And he was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I was like, he's like, I've never seen this woman in my life. And I was like, oh, what would that be? And then I was like, okay, well, it has to, I know she's an actress. And then I was like, okay, it has to be something that I watch. And then I was like, okay, what have I watched? I was like, well, I've watched Gossip Girls. She's not from Gossip Girls. What else have I watched on my own? And then it dawned on me. I was like, oh, she's Working Moms. She's Frankie. And he was like, what? And I was like, it's Working Moms. And he was like, I don't even know what that is. I'm like, yeah, well, there's a reason for that. And so I was so excited. My team was excited that you join us for runs. I absolutely love Working Moms, and Frankie was always my favorite. So I couldn't believe I didn't figure it out sooner, but very surreal that you are here. So thank you for sharing and yeah, agreeing to come chat with me. It's very surreal, but pretty cool.
Absolutely. And Steve, you and I got to chat, man. You got to watch the show.
I'm trying to get him up on staying up to date with what women are feeling. But I think he's fed up of me being like, you really need to listen to this or watch this to learn about the experience for women. And he's like, yeah, I know. All right, you told me something yesterday. Can I? So we will talk about Working Moms a little bit in a little while. But I want to begin actually with a very serious question. You are a runner. You also have curly hair, as do I. Curly hair plus running do not mix very well. So please tell me your secret, because I still haven't figured it out, and I'm not willing to wash my hair every single day. So give me the secret, please.
The secret is after a run is a top knot. That's it. You can't wear your hair down after a run. It's just a nightmare. And the humidity is like, basically I feel like I'm wearing a clown wig when I'm running. It's next level.
Yeah. No, I tried this morning, and as you can tell, I've given up and tied it up, but yeah, every morning I try to like slather it with leave-in conditioner to try and like stay down frizz, and then it just rises back up.
Yeah, it just rises. Yeah.
So okay, well, that's one thing about curls. And selfishly, before we get into running, I want to watch the other thing about curls, and that is being an actress and having these other situations where you have to be at events. Do you have some kind of curl stylist who knows exactly what they're doing? Because I would say most people I've come across who do hair have absolutely zero idea what to do with curls. So I've always wondered.
Oh yeah, no, you're bang on. Yeah, well, if I'm doing some sort of like a special event, or there's like we have hair people who are doing great, amazing job with my hair, but it is like a lifelong it's been a lifelong challenge to try and figure out how to tame the mane per se. Like as a child, it was a nightmare. Hated having curly hair. It was just kids would throw eraser bits into my hair, and then they'd ask me to shake my head, and anyway. So
did you leave it down curly as a child?
No, I didn't. I did a little bit, and then what I would do is I get my mom to like put it into a ponytail, like the tightest ponytail. She started getting like this like crazy bicep from like reefing my hair into a ponytail every morning. And then you just sort of, as you get older, you figure out how to sort of work with it. But yeah, it's definitely a topic of conversation. It's a real identity piece for me too, which I find sometimes I not struggle with, but it's like, when you have that thing that everybody's like, oh, your hair, it's like, I'm more than my hair, guys, Yeah.
But it took me the longest time it was actually only in 2019 when I did events that I stopped straightening my hair. Or what was even funnier, I would go to the dry bar salons and get them to curl my hair, which is so ridiculous. Like, why would I go there for them to straighten it and then curl it?
Yes.
In 2019, I finally accepted I had curly hair and let it, and I haven't touched straighteners since. I'm quite proud to say, but yeah, it's definitely something identity piece. I get that. All right, I will move on from curls. We've mentioned you started where you found what I was doing via Together Runs. We've also established between us separately that you don't know how you came across them, but what is it?
I think I went back and I Googled like on podcasts, because I was like, how did I actually find these runs? Because what was happening, I remember, is I was getting kind of sick of my music that I was listening to. I hadn't ventured into just running without music. Like I needed that to really kind of get me started. I hadn't bridged over to no music. So I'm like, I love podcasts. I'm a true crime junkie, but I was like, I need something else. Like I need some inspiration is kind of what I was looking for. And so I typed into the podcast bar on Apple, just running podcasts, and yours comes up.
Huh.
And I liked the title because the title was Running for Real. And I just, that word real was like, that's really, I don't know. I just was really gravitated towards that because of the authenticity of the title. And then I started looking into what, you were talking about. A lot of the people are on your podcast, I don't know, but then I was like, oh, the Together Run, what's this? And then one day I was like, okay, I'll just try it. And I just loved it. I loved the connectedness of it. I loved how you begin the run. I just loved how it felt. I could feel this community of people that I've never seen, don't know, experiencing it the same time, but in a different time. I don't know. It was a very cool, experience. And then, so that's what I would do is I would run once a week with the Together Run. And I usually run in the, really in nature in those days, which was, it was cool. And I was just trying to imagine where you were. And I was like, where is she? She has an English accent, but she's talking about the States, I think. And anyway, it just was sort of a discovery of like, oh, and she's got 2 kids and, started to learn more about all that stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I thank you for sharing that. And that's interesting. I always just wonder, like, what is it that draws someone to click on that? And people, once they try it, they love it. I've had so many people who have heard about it and they're like, oh, I don't know, like listening to you breathing, that sounds a bit weird. And it does. If you listen to it like sitting in a room, it is, at least, when I've heard little clips of it, I'm like, no, please don't do that. But when it's something very powerful. And as you said, you feel connected to people. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you would have listened to the one where I talked about this, but I actually ended up one day, I started one and it somehow switched off by the time I was 40 seconds in. So I did the whole thing. And then I realized, and at first I was like, what a waste of my time. But then I was like, actually, even though I didn't run with anyone, because no one is ever going to hear this, I still felt that, the people were with me. So it's really strange, but it's really powerful. So thank you for that, because I came up with it in the pandemic and people really enjoy it. And there are some fun ones. There's one in New York and one in Boston, the New York City Marathon weekend and the Boston Marathon weekend, that are very like high energy and you feel like you're there with everyone. And I just went round and interviewed people for 2 or 3 minutes each. And then there's, a few very scenic ones. There's some in England in the countryside, and there's one in Maui along the beach. Like there's various travel ones, but there is something unique about the just everyday runs, because that's what we're doing most of the time, right? There might be the glamorous ones you do, but most of your runs are just your regular route. So so thank you for joining that, for sharing that. And I want to go into what running means to you, because running is something that you enjoy, clearly, but it has also held a special place in your heart for how you came to it. So would you share that with us?
Yeah, I was thinking about this last night, and it's sort of like, it's not just one thing. Like I grew up in a really rural environment where I spent a lot of time outdoors, a lot of time being active, and we didn't have smartphones or anything when we were kids, so it was I was very active and my family was active and we did a lot of hiking and canoeing and outdoor stuff. And so I've always really been drawn to nature, especially, and being active. And I think when it's established young, like when you're in like an activity or you're active as a child, it's something that actually keeps, it's part of your growth as a human into adulthood, that it's just in your DNA, it's in your system. And so anytime I would feel, I don't know, like stuck or something, I would, go to the Y or take a bike ride or, try and do a little jog. And I just did that my whole life. And then I think when it really started to show up for me was when I had my first kid. I really noticed the difference between physical activity and mental health. And that was when it started to become more of like, okay, this is actually helping me stay present and clear and, out of my brain. And, I can be really, I call it circling the drain, but it's like, I can get really sort of bogged down with, our world and issues and things. And so my husband, started being like, okay, maybe just need to get outside for a bit, go for a walk. And so I do that. And then it started morphed into a run. And I remember I would come home and just be like that much more present, that much clearer, that much more like, this is a direct link. This activity is a direct link to feeling myself. And then, and so this running now that I'm doing, like I'm training for a half marathon. I'm 45, never done anything like this before, never done any racing. And I just kind of got it into my head, like, wouldn't this be an interesting goal, to try and obtain as a person? And also as an actor, our lives are very, very up and down. Like there's times when it's like, it's feast or famine, really. So there's times when there's tons of work. There's times when there's no work. There's times when you're questioning your whole existence as a person because you're like, why did I decide to do this? Then there's like times where you're like, I'm too old. I can't do anything else. There's a lot going on in the old head. So I decided that, and what's turned out to be like, oh, I want to try for this marathon has become an anchor in a kind of a time in my life where I don't really have, I'm in process of things, of work. So it's like, this is my anchor to sort of keep me going and a goal. And it's been unbelievably helpful. And I came to it from a dear friend of mine down the street who's in a band, called a Canadian band called Elliott Brood. And he said, you run, Juno. I've got this friend who's got this really cool clothing line. Maybe you guys want to talk. And so I did. I started chatting with this fellow named Peter Meads, and he's got this beautiful clothing line called Inherit the Earth, which is running gear. And we started talking about running, and he was just like, his philosophy really aligned with mine, like just for well-being and so we started chatting, and him and his wife were like ultra runners. Like, I don't know, his wife Heidi said to me the other day that she was doing like a 72K run, or I don't know, or 7-hour run. I was like, what's happening? How can you do that? Like, I can barely get past 20 minutes. Like, what's happening? Anyway, so beautiful team. They created this incredible clothing line during the pandemic. And so we sort of partnered up. And Heidi has been coaching me. So she gives me like, a structured week of like what to do. And she's the most positive, kindest, supportive person that I just feel really like, without them, I don't think I would have been able to do this. First of all, I wouldn't have known what to do. Probably would have blown out my knee again or gone too hard. So that's the other thing too, is like, I didn't realize there's all these facets to building into like a run or like a long run or like a quick run or like a strength training. Like there's a whole bunch of things that go into it. So it's been a real education. And in my head and my heart, I really haven't felt better. than doing this. So it's really, it's been very cool. And so, I've been reading a lot about it. I found your podcast. It's a whole world that you're well versed in, but it's special. It's a special community.
Sure, absolutely. And while I've interviewed, while I've run at the top level myself, I actually love to talk to people who don't come from that background, because of the fact that everyone has such an interesting story. Everyone recognizes the journey that they're on, and how it is different to what maybe they expected. And I think a lot of that is because you might have seen someone like me, or everyone has seen someone like me and be like, oh, that's what a runner is supposed to be. So I'm just out here like kind of jogging around, whatever I'm doing. It's not really a runner. And I have seen you write about the fact that on one of your Instagram posts, you are a runner if you're putting one foot in front of the other for any distance at any pace, which I 100% agree with. And I think it is quite hard for people joining the space to see that. But as you said, once you get in there, there is this community and there is this recognition that a lot goes into it. And as you've come across already, there's a lot of generosity there in terms of just good people wanting to help one another out with something that's a shared passion, which is something kind of cool that we have.
Absolutely. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of like, I owned a Volkswagen when I was in my early 20s, and like a Volkswagen bus, and you'd get the wave when you're on the highway, like the little 2-finger wave, because you shared this Volkswagen thing, right? And it's like that in the running community. You get a little 2-finger wave when you're running, and there's something, not everybody does it. I'm like, but there's something so, you just feel acknowledged, and like you're in it together, and you're fighting a different fight than me, but we're doing this together, and it's a beautiful feeling of support. And it's very cool.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So then, with that story that you mentioned there, you also, I don't know if this was the beginning, you can maybe explain it, but you did struggle with postpartum depression. And you found running to be a big piece of that. Was that the first that time that you said you went out walking, or was that was that before that point?
No, I think that was probably the catalyst of like, getting a really good pair of running shoes finally, and realizing that high intensity sort of aerobic like blast really was like, shaking up the sort of the mental health piece at that moment. And so, that was probably the beginning of really realizing how valuable that can be, and how that really did help me through that time of feeling pretty low, pretty overwhelmed, and just really, really dialing into that connection. Everybody tells you, right? Everybody says, oh, like there's a direct connection between like depression and like physical activity. And it's a hard leap when you're in that space to get through it. But if you can push through and just get through, like getting around the block or whatever it is, or getting out into nature or hiking or doing a 20-minute, 15-minute run, it's night and day. And that's when I started to see that really changing.
Thank you to Tracksmith for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. I have been talking about Tracksmith since 2019, and those first items I received in 2019 the quality is just as good then as it is now. You honestly wouldn't be able to tell the difference after the first wash and the wash, whatever wash number I am on now. Their stuff is quality. They put the design process that they go into is incredibly intense. They are obsessive about getting it right. They create every garment from the ground up based on the specific use, selecting the best materials, silhouettes, and details to make every run more enjoyable. And it really is. You're going to be more comfortable, you're going to be more productive, and you can go check out what they have to offer over at tracksmith.com. And if you use code TINA15, not only will you donate 5% of whatever you spend to my favorite nonprofit, Runners for Public Lands, but you will get free shipping with that order. And if you are racing Chicago Marathon, I want to tell you that I will be hosting a shakeout with Alexandria Will and Tommy Runs at the Tracksmith Shakeout on October 8th. And so I would love to see you there at that shakeout. So you can find out more on the Tracksmith website, or again, signing up to our newsletter at runningforreal.com. I'll also be doing the same thing at the New York City Marathon. So if you are running one of those, please let me know. We had such an amazing turnout at Boston last time we did this, and I am very excited to take you with me on a together run with Alex and Tommy. It is going to be fantastic, and I cannot wait to see you there. Thank you so much to Tracksmith for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. Remember to go use code TINA15 to get free shipping and to make sure 5% of your order goes to Runners for Public Lands. It's so hard, especially in the world that we live in. And I've talked about this a lot on this podcast about, you said about just getting out the door. Well, there's so many, or just getting out there. There's so many moments that we see, again, this highlight reel of social media, or we see what other people are doing and we think, oh, well, everyone can do it but me, or like, oh, they seem to find it so easy. And it just makes, I do wonder how much easier it would have been. What are the benefits? So you see people maybe who start running or something of the like, and maybe 50 years ago, you wouldn't have seen that person out there who wouldn't have inspired some people to try. So you got that piece. But then the other side, obviously, is that it makes it look like everyone else is getting on with it except you, or everyone else is improving except you. So I do wonder, where for most of us it falls in terms of helping us and hindering us with our running, because there's good and bad, and it's tough. But thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that, because it is something that I think there's more conversations happening, but we still have a long way to go in terms of bringing up postpartum depression, talking about it, any kind of mental health issues. And in Working Moms, we'll talk about that more in a bit, but that was definitely brought up in many ways of the struggles that mothers go through. Actually, maybe on that, while we're at that point, can you just give people who haven't seen it, what is Working Moms?
Working Moms is show. Workin Moms is a show that's on Netflix and CBC, Canadian Broadcast Corporation, shot in Toronto, Canada, and it follows the lives of 4 moms, created by Catherine Reitman. She's the showrunner, star, extraordinaire. And it follows the lives of these 4 different women who meet in a mommy's group in the beginning of the series in season 1, and sort of goes through the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of these women's different lives. And it's a comedy, and it's also kind of rides that line of like the dark comedy. It really showcases a lot of the stuff that moms go through in a different way, instead of just being like a fun, light comedy. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it that's like, yeah, that's how I feel. Oof, that's how I feel, and that's been the reception that we've all got, is like women have been like, thank you for showing, the truth of these matters, and how crazy they are and funny they are and heartbreaking they are, because that's really is what motherhood is. It's like, my husband coins it so perfectly. He's like, being a parent is like trying to hit a moving target. You feel like you've got it, and then, oh gosh, and then it moves, and then it moves again, and then now it's moved over here and fallen into the water. And so it's I think it's important, and it really, the show really took off because of how relatable it was to women, but also to families and to men. I get lots of compliments from all sorts of people who are watching the show and just really enjoy it. So yeah.
I want to dig into it in a minute, but you did, as you said, there are some darker pieces of comedy that address things that aren't talked about in society, and we will go into that. I want to just continue with running for just a minute before we get to that.
Sure.
I had a guest on a few weeks ago who was an architect and a musician, and he had to. I know, and he blew my mind when he weaved together how those running, being a musician and being an architect like work together, and I just couldn't. It's like, this is just unbelievable. Like, in my head, you're either an artist on one side, you're like a sporty person on the other side, or you're a musician somewhere totally different. So like I couldn't bring it, but he brought it together. He said about how they worked together, how they helped him, how running helped him be present in those other things. Have you found running to help you within your career as well? Or like, obviously you said it helps you center for the day, but what other benefits have you found for your work from running?
My most genius ideas for like a new series that I want to write, or a character idea, if I'm thinking about like how I want to portray a character, or an idea of writing an Instagram post about how to like connect us more, or they all come when I'm running. And I asked my therapist about that, which is funny. One day I'm like, what is this? Like and she's like, what's happening is your brain is focusing on another, like it's on a different task. And the task is fairly repetitive, where you're just like, well, yeah, you're in a rhythm. And so the other part of your brain has the space to like pull in all whatever it needs. And so I can understand your guest, the creative architect person solving problems. How my husband solves problems is he sleeps at night, and that's when his brain just sort of puts it all together, wakes up in the morning and then builds the shed, that kind of a thing. But for me, it's running. And I find I get the best ideas and solve creative problems when I'm running.
Yes. Do you know the author Ryan Holiday, or do you know of him?
No.
Okay. There's this,
maybe.
He's an author who his most known book is Ego is the Enemy. And what's the other one? I don't know. He's known as the Daily Stoic. Anyway, I interviewed Ryan a few years ago, and he said that he always has these thoughts, and he always comes up with his solving a chapter or figuring out what goes where. And I asked him about, but do you lose things? And he said, yeah, like on runs, there's been many occasions where I have come up with the most incredible paragraph and I've just lost it by the end.
Yeah.
And he talked about kind of coming to peace with that. And he talked about that when he walks in the house, his wife knows not to say anything to him until he's walked to a notepad to like scribble down whatever's come to mind. And so I thought you would relate to that, because I very much feel the same when I like get back. I'm like, when you're getting close to the house or got close to finishing, you're like, I at least am trying to tie together the things I've thought about so I can remember them, because you're like, I'm so close. I don't want to lose it now. But I do wonder about the amount of ideas that come along in running that people have lost along the way, just because they've come up, 20 minutes in and you've got another 20 minutes to go or something.
I know. Yeah. What do you do in that moment? Sometimes in that moment, I wish I had like a little voice recorder. Or I just,
some people do that.
Yeah. I'm thinking that might be the way to go. Like just quickly jot it down. And keep going, but then
you lose it, and it kind of then to me verges on the territory of looking for a place to put down your phone to take a picture, and you end up just looking at like, oh, that bench, oh, that tree trunk, oh, that, and you're not actually enjoying it anymore. So yeah, I don't know. I've gone back and forth with the idea, but so far I've just
I think you're bang on with that. I like that. And I do think that, especially nowadays, taking the time to like get your phone out to write it down is like kind of loses the point of the process of it. And also, if the idea is meant to be for you, it's going to stay. It'll find its way back in. But maybe it was an idea that was coming through you and needs to go to someone else. You never know.
I've just had an idea for you and I. If we put a pen in our hair, it would stay nicely.
Oh, always.
So there you go. Put pen in the top knot.
Oh, and then what? Get out a little piece of paper?
Well, right on your hand, Maybe that's what I'm going to try. True. Pen in the hair.
There you go. As you're running, write it on your hand. And then you'll get to the end. You're like, can't read that. Have no idea what that says. Pick up milk.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you for that. Because I always am fascinated with how running ties in with various people's careers and what it does for their lives. Have you had any luck convincing anyone else you work with to run? Or do they just think you're a crazy running lady?
They think I'm a crazy running lady. Yeah. No, they don't. I haven't. You know what though? My sister is the first runner of well, no, that's not true. My dad is the first runner of our family, like competitive steeplechase.
Oh, wow.
And my sister, same thing, postpartum running, like, really important to her. And she's been running her way longer than I have. And she's one of my inspirations. And my niece is now into running. So I guess it is kind of, in our family. Mm-hmm. But there's also part of me that's like, I like to be alone. Mm-hmm. And I find that being alone running is there's part of me that gets the idea of being in a running group or running with people for sure. But I also just really like the solitary thing that the time that it is,
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm the same way. I do most of my running alone, other than the together runs where I'm with people without being with them. But even that, it gives you, I intentionally give space for quiet thinking. So it's kind of a mix between the two. Okay, so You've explained what Working Moms is. By the way, don't you say mums in Canada, right?
Yeah, mums.
So why is it called Working Moms? Is that just America making it be moms?
Well, we read it. It's MOM, but we read it mums.
Oh, me too. But I just I when I saw it on Netflix, I was like, why is that? I don't know. I just was
moms, Working Moms. We don't say moms.
Mums. Yeah, mums. Yeah.
But when anybody writes like mum, MUM, I'm always like, that's not right. Do you write it? Is that how you write it?
Oh wait, you write it MOM?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay, so you say mum, but you spell it mom.
Correct. You got it. Okay. Yeah, we say mum, but we write it mom, I guess.
So we're the only ones that have it correct then.
Yeah. That's fine. You can be right on that one.
People over here always say to me, like, you talking about mums like flowers? And I'm like, no. Because, it says like is it spring or the fall when it's like mums in stock? And I always see that and I'm like, oh, ha, mums in stock. But yeah, okay. All right. Well, I had to ask that question, but I did not know that. So now I've learned something. We talked about what it is. And I will admit to you, the first time I watched it, or the first few times, it was funny. I felt quite triggered because it brought up some things in me. I will say sometimes Frankie, but at all of the mums really, that like, I was like, almost inside that voice in me was like, you're doing it wrong. Like, you're not doing this how you're supposed to be doing this. But then I was like, you know what, Tina, that's actually because you are holding yourself to these impossibly high standards and you are judging yourself. And so this is actually showing you that like every household is a mess and it's going to be a mess and you're going to mess up things, but that's okay. And it gave me that permission. So it took me the first like maybe 3 episodes. I was kind of like, this stupid program, I'm not going to watch this. But then I like let it into my heart and realized it was myself judging it. And I couldn't stop watching as well. So that was the other part, even though I was saying that to myself. But then I grew to love it and grew to love the characters, especially Frankie. And yeah, so I want you to maybe talk about why it's important in that way, because it does not demonstrate like everything else, how, most shows that you watch showing motherhood show the mother getting it all right. And that's just not reality. So what is important about this show?
No, the reality is no mother is getting it right, but we've got a long way to go, but we're still being held to these standards of trying to hold it all together and get it all right. And, you know, I think in a way it's like the show is hopefully giving us permission to not be so hard on ourselves, and to see that, you know, there's all sorts of different ways to parent. Nobody's got it perfect, and some ways work for some people and some ways don't. And the thing about it is that we're all human, and we're all just trying to figure it out as we go. And there's so many factors that go into it. There's just how you were raised, where you're growing up, what kind of socio and economic background you're in. It's just, there's no formula that makes it perfect. Right. And so I think that's what women really were drawn to, is the fact that, you know, it's showing all of these ways that you can still be a loving parent and not have it not working out the way you thought it was going to work out. And also showing the pressures that, you know, like Kate, for instance, is under a lot of pressure to sort of handle the job and pretend that she's got a newborn at home, in a way, like, instead of really accepting that, no, this is what she's juggling and this is a lot. And is there a way to sort of see that now and be a bit more sort of conscious about it on the other, you know, in the workplace. So yeah. And as a person like myself, I'm a creative person, and so is my husband. So we don't live in that corporate world of trying to go back to work and juggling all of that. We've been very fortunate that if, you know, when the kids were little, I was able to be at home with them, and then we would alternate, right? So I would stay home and Mike would go to work, or Mike would stay home and I would go to work. And that's a whole other dance of uncertainty, but it's, you know, I do appreciate that there's all sorts of ways to make it work. And I think the biggest thing we need to do is have compassion for ourselves, just, you know, across the board of you're right. You're not going to get it right every day, but, there's going to be lots of moments where it's going to line up. And I just think that's kind of life too, really, you know?
Hi friends, just pausing this episode to just let you know a few of the things we have been up to and are up to behind the scenes at Running for Real. Firstly, if you are not already signed up for the weekly newsletter that comes out every Monday, they are very, very popular. They are full of Tina-like rambles. There's also recommendations, things that I think you should check out. You can also keep up to date with what we've been doing with Running for Real that week, and so much more. People really enjoy them, and I think you will too if you like these episodes. Secondly, if you have amenorrhea or Red S, if you are in recovery from amenorrhea or Red S, I would love if you would get into contact with our team. If you reach out to sally@runningforreal.com, or you can reach out to me on any of the social media platforms, I would love to hear from you. We are working on something that is going to be life-changing. We are working with the experts, and I'm very excited about it. So if you are someone who is struggling with amenorrhea or Red S, please reach out to me and let me know. Finally, I want to let you know about some of the other podcast episodes that you may have missed. We have our weekly Stride episodes on Wednesdays, which are very fun, lighthearted, answering your questions, kind of like an Ask Me Almost Anything type episode. Those are usually 4 to 8 minutes long, so very short, just something you can listen to while you're on a quick drive, while you're washing the dishes, or whatever else you could be doing. And we also have Together Runs. Now, you're hearing us talk a lot about Together Runs lately, and that is because these are something special. You will see as soon as you give them a try, these are special. One last thing, I said finally already, but one last thing. If you are running Chicago Marathon, let me know. If you are running New York Marathon, let me know. And if you happen to be in LA, Venice Beach area around the 16th of September, let me know about that ASAP. Thank you so much to those of you who have continued to connect with us. We love getting to know you. We love hearing from you. Go check out all we are up to at runningforreal.com. No, that's so true. And I'm very much in that same situation where two not corporate jobs, and it's a dance, as you said, a dance in its own. And you have two sons. How old are they, if you don't mind me asking?
16 and 16 to 12. Yeah.
Okay. So you're kind of in a different
stage.
So
we're moving into a new zone. Yeah. Oh yeah. We're in a new zone of like, there's the individuation starting to happen where the pulling away is starting to happen. We just went on a incredible canoe trip, but we only took the younger guy because the older one didn't want to go. And so it's like, it's morphing. It's constantly morphing. Whereas before it's like, I just remember being like, I'm never going to get a second. I'm never going to get a second away from these kids. And now it's, it's such a, I don't know, it's just a constant thing. Yeah. Constant change.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And I will encourage, any parents out there to go watch the show, because it really, I found it very, permission giving to be able to accept the flaws that I had and the things that I did wrong. And particularly, I've mentioned this to friends. I haven't ever said this publicly, but for me, anger is definitely my thing that I resort to, of where I just yell and then I feel guilt. I feel shame. And then I feel what is wrong with you? Why did you do that? When I lose my temper, and then, I try and do the repairing, but there's still that kind of hush. It's very much okay sometimes to talk about anxiety. It's very much okay to talk about depression, or maybe getting there with both of those. But anger for me is something that I have always struggled with. And I found that was another element that was covered in Working Moms, that I felt like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one who struggles with this. And the fact that it was addressed, and I knew it was thoughtfully addressed, all of these topics. So I think there is something for everyone, whatever your, I don't want to say weakness, but whatever you're working on is going to be covered within that, whatever part of you that you are judgmental about. So anything else to add about Working Moms? You chose not to go ahead with, is it out already? We don't have our Netflix right now. So is the most recent season I haven't seen. That was season 5? 6.
Yeah, so I did 5 seasons on the show, and it literally changed my life. I have such gratitude for that experience, and I felt like so after 5 seasons I was really excited to move into writing and producing and sort of see where that journey would take me. And so and still acting. I love, that's definitely my love and my drug of choice. But I just was really curious to see. I had a whole bunch of things in my head about what I wanted to produce and do, and I wanted to take that opportunity to try and see if I could get some of those things off the ground. And so I'm in the process of two really exciting projects that are in the works, as they say.
You've done Christina, right? Is that out or not?
That one, the short, a little short.
Yeah, that short.
It's I don't think it's out. It's going to be doing the festival circuit this year.
Okay.
That's usually where shorts go into a festival circuit, and then yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's one thing. And then can you share with us what you're working on?
Yeah. Well, the newest thing that's coming out in a week, next week, is it's called My Special Guest, and it's Juno in quotes. So that's an alter ego of myself, but has a talk show. Really excited. She's really excited about this Canadian talk show that she's doing. And unfortunately, the talk show is not really able to get off the ground. So she keeps getting the same guest. So the same guest is her best friend, and the best friend just keeps coming back onto the show. And it's sort of a progression of how is Juno going to get a Canadian celebrity kind of thing? And then by the end of the season, it's she gets a celebrity, but can she pull it off is the question. So it's more of a Between Two Ferns meets Ellen meets Jimmy Kimmel. But it was written by me and my best friend Jenny Young, and my husband Mike Rinaldi, and produced by this incredible production company called Archipelago Productions. And it's just what it is it's humor, it's touching, and it's my kind of my kind of jokes.
Yeah. I watched the trailer and I'm looking forward to seeing it when it comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really fun. And how long is this going to be?
They're like 10 minute episodes. This is season 1, and then season 2 will be like a talk show, like a 30-minute talk show.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. And
developed into that.
Those of us who aren't in Canada will be able to find it on YouTube, I'm assuming. Or not?
Correct. Or I guess all over the world you can get YouTube.
You can get YouTube all over the world? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a question?
Like, where are you living? What's happening right now? Yes, it'll be on YouTube. So
I think if you can get in, I'm assuming everyone can get YouTube.
Okay, you can get YouTube everywhere. I know. Yeah, it'll be on YouTube.
And going back to, you were saying about with when you were working through postpartum depression, getting out the door, or when you were starting running, getting out the door was hard. Can you explain to us maybe something that you've learned that translated across, or maybe it's something different that helps with, a lot of people have these ideas. Like, you've clearly said this was something that was of interest to you. You said when you left Working Moms that it was because you had these ideas swirling around in your head. How do you take that step from like, I've always wanted to do this, or I'm always interested in this, to actually taking the steps to doing it if someone is finding that part hard?
That is such a really great question. And answering it is hard, because I only really know it from my personality and perspective. And that's, I'm one of these kind of people who, if it's hard and I've got it in front of my face and I want to do it and it's hard, I leap. I'm a leaper. I'm a Band-Aid ripper. Yeah. I'm a leaper. I'm going to go for it. But I do see other people weighing options. Maybe I should try it a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't. Fear becomes a big thing. And I've always been that kind of person. I'm not reckless. I wouldn't say reckless. I just think like, I'm going to try it. I have to try it. And if I fall flat on my face, then I do. I've never been one of those people to sort of sit back, which would make sense. Like we took a leap of faith and moved across the country with like no money, no anything. And it really paid off for ourselves. So it's like, it's sort of my personality to do that. And, but for somebody at home who is like, maybe doesn't have that kind of personality, or doesn't really know how to access that kind of like go and grab it kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know. Like in my mind, what just popped into my mind was just put down your phone, walk out the door, and go around the block without your phone. Might be a good start.
Yeah. That is a good call. And I'm the same as you. I'm definitely a leaper.
Leaper,
My husband has always joked. He's like, you just like jump off cliffs and then hope for the best. And usually it works. And he's like, that's what makes it even more annoying, is that you just do this and you trust fall and it works. But
there's that whole thing of like, take a leap of faith, right? And the quote that I sort of love so much is, fortune favors the bold. Like, go for it. We've got one kick at this. Just try it. Yes, you may fail. Who cares? Like, I don't know. I've never really understood that piece. I have so many blind spots, I'll swear, in my life that I work really hard at. But that one is like, I just am going to try it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to leap. I'm going to try it. I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm going to find something in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other piece that I've heard that I've heard people saying is helpful for them is writing it out. If you're not even comfortable sharing it with someone yet, or talking through it because you're afraid people will shoot you down or say it's a stupid idea, writing it out so that you can continue to get clearer, and then even write yourself a pep talk as to, as if you were writing to someone else, what you would tell them. That's something that I've found to be quite helpful for people who do struggle. But Yeah, I'm glad we're acknowledging that it is, you know, as you said, everyone has their blind spots, their things that they struggle with. And to someone who isn't one of those leapers, I don't know if that's an actual term, it can be really hard to see how someone could do that. And I know plenty of people like that who just say, like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just like take a deep breath and go for it. And so, yeah, I think I do also think it is a skill that the more you do it, the more you get better at it. And almost like preparing. It's maybe something to do with expectations, or maybe it's just preparing to fail, because there is going to be a lot of failure involved and getting used to failing. So maybe that's the other piece of it.
Yeah. I have to get back to you on that and more, because it is a conundrum. I can see where I have areas to work on, but with this leaping piece, it's just, I don't even really think about it. It's weird. Like it's tied in around fear too. And I have fear in many other places, but it doesn't show up in like, I want to do this. I want to figure out how, and I'm just going to do it. Yes, I'm 45 and I'm going to run a half marathon. What? I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I want to try, you know? And so I just do. It's so annoying to somebody who's like, well, it's, you know, yeah.
Well, if you want someone to come run it with you, I would love to join you for your first half, if you ever are needing a buddy to go with you. But what was I going to say about this?
Where are you anyway? You're in the States somewhere.
No, I'm in an island in the middle of the ocean, obviously, where we don't have YouTube. No.
YouTube does not go around the world, Tina. It's just in Toronto, Canada.
Okay. Yeah, no, I always joke I'm going to move to an island because I don't belong in the US and I don't belong in the UK anymore. So I'm going to just live in the middle somewhere. But no, awesome. I am in the middle of the US. I'm in St. Louis in Missouri. So right in the middle. Okay. So, but yeah, what was the other thing I was going to ask you about that was related to related to failing? I guess that's the other piece of have you had some things that I guess just give some examples that it's okay, all in this whole theme. It's okay if you do take a leap with your creative endeavor and it doesn't work out, or it doesn't, the first time you tell someone, that person reacts badly. What would you say to someone? Because I'm assuming you have had situations like that where you've really believed in something or thought about something, and then it's just either not happened or not happened in the way you expected.
Oh my gosh, my whole life. Like as an actor, twice a week, I'm putting myself out there in a very vulnerable way in job interviews, like trying to get a job. And it's basically the business of rejection. There's a lot of rejection that happens. And that's hard. That is really hard. But it's really about coming back to what is it for you and how do you express it for yourself? And it's not your success and your feeling of worth is not contingent on someone else's saying you're okay. And as a human, I feel like that's a big one to just try and learn as we go forward. But your worth and your value as a person and your ideas and what you want to contribute in the world, whether it's small or not, it doesn't matter if somebody says, oh, that's weird, because it's completely going through their filter of weirdness of what they're working on and they're doing. So, and there really is something about if you start just putting the energy into that zone, whatever it is, whether it's starting a run, whether it's, writing a screenplay, whether it's writing a poem or a journal entry or anything creative, there is something that happens within, like, not to sound too woo-woo, but within the universe that starts to pull the energy to help you and give you a little wind at your back. If you're not doing it, you're just cycling in this sort of the what ifs and the I don't knows and I'm no good. Little by little, you start to put your foot in front of the other. There's the fortune favors the bold. It starts to come together. Yes. And you'd be surprised at what it looks like. Because that's the other thing. We can't tell. It's like, oh, why didn't I get that role? Why didn't I get that role? It's like, because there's something else working here. Just keep going, you know?
Yes, 100%. Thank you so much for that. I think that is really good for us all to hear, and ties back in, as you've mentioned in there, with our running. You have also talked about comparison being one of the toughest things about getting out there. And you mentioned earlier on that, we talked about not feeling like a runner unless you're this fast, or you can run this many miles or kilometers or whatever it may be. It ties into running in that same way, that those little steps matter, and the speed at which you're moving across them really doesn't, because you're doing it. And that's the
and you would be surprised. Like, I literally could not run for 20 minutes without like my heart being like, you know. And the other day I ran for an hour and a half, and I was like, what? How is that even possible? And how that's possible is little by little by little by little. It's just, you know, putting in the time and the work. You're not going to run an hour and a half right out of the gate. It's just not going to happen unless you're, I don't know. But and then the satisfaction of that, of going, wow, I put in the work. I did it a little every day, and this is what I did. Then you just get addicted to it. Then you're just like, I just want to keep going. How far can I run?
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I will not run 7 hours. That's not happening. I will never run 7 hours, or through a mountain, or through a desert, or through anything. I'm not doing that.
Hey, I have one more that I think is even worse than all of those, because I've had a lot of ultra runners on here. There's some people that like to do, you know, a track, like a 400 meter track. They will do that for like 24 hours or like hundreds of miles just around the track. How's that sound? Because to me, that literally is the worst. I'd rather run through a desert than do that.
I would rather run through a desert than do that too. That sounds like, how do you not like go?
I mean, I don't know how I definitely couldn't handle it. I would melt into a puddle. But there's people that do it, and they're amazing. I just can't even. I'm with you. 7 hours is, although actually I have done 7 hours earlier this year.
Really?
Not running the whole way. So there's a guy called Mike Wardian who ran across America this summer, and he came to St. Louis, and he is an old friend of mine, and he had said to me, why don't you try and do, he was doing 50 miles a day. He was like, why don't you try and do the 50 with me? And I was like, ha, 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 very funny. And then as we got going, we kept running. He was like, why don't you, see how far you can go? And so he kind of poked at my competitive bear. And I ended up doing 34 miles with him. And we were stopping constantly. It was like 95 degrees. We were stopping a lot, and we were taking breaks. But I was on my feet for 7 hours, and I was surprised that I did that. So I did do that, but not maybe in the way that your friend did it.
It doesn't matter, because anybody doing that, I just think, I don't know, there's just something so amazing about that. Mm-hmm. It really is quite a feat. And I can understand the draw. I really can, now that I've started to run more and definitely have a program and a goal to work towards. I can see the draw. I get it. I totally get it. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful commitment and goal to have and everything. But I think that ship may have sailed for me.
I don't know though. Like, if you think of Juno, who had done that first time you started run walking, and you said to her, "Oh, you'll do an hour and a half." What would she?
Yeah, that's true.
And
you're crazy. Yeah, that's true.
On behalf of everyone listening who is already wondering this question, would the half is there? Would the potential ever be there for a full?
No.
Really?
Let me get back to you. Let's see if I can get through the half.
You will.
And if I enjoy it, and if I've got a little bit of steam left in the tank after the half, then maybe I'll be like, what can I do now? What can I do? Because I do see I don't know, there's something really, really powerful about completing something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you said you're in Toronto? That. You're in Toronto?
Yeah, Hamilton, Toronto, similar, yeah.
There's a Toronto Waterfront Marathon is, I think, one of a very, very popular marathon. So I know that's there. There is a big one. But okay. Is there anything else you would like to, I'll stop badgering you now. Is there anything else you would like to tell the listeners or remind them about running, or anything else that we've talked about today?
I would just, I think the most valuable thing that I've gotten through you and through the running community and being on the Together runs and just starting like dipping my tiny little toe into this community is that, it's so welcoming and so vast, and the pure joy of just moving our bodies is one of the essential things of being a human. And if you are struggling to even just get out the door, I really encourage just to get out the door, walk around and look at whatever's in your surroundings and really just see it. And that's one of the things I love about your Together runs. Mm-hmm. It's like looking at things and just looking at that leaf or looking at the tree or seeing how that house is shaped or whatever it is, because that's a very present, like it's bringing you into the present moment. And I think we're fighting that right now in our world, is fighting being in the present. And there's so much value in just being in the present. And then be surprised. The other thing I would definitely say is be surprised at how amazing you are and what you actually can do, because it's next level.
So once you run your 7-hour run, I'll bring you back on this podcast.
Could you imagine? Oh my Lord.
I can.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
I want to take a moment just to thank you. You said a lot of kind words you did in that post for, not only the work that you've done in your career, for not only, the advice and wisdom you've shared today. You're a passionate advocate for many different communities. And it's funny that you said that word real jumped out to you. Well, that is definitely a word to describe you as well. And I love that so much. And you've really kind of destroyed in many ways the image I have of, actors only having to show this like perfectionism life. Like I really love that you've just been very real and raw and vulnerable with us. So thank you for that. And
pleasure.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how the half marathon goes. So best of luck with that. And thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Tina.
Hi, friends. Just a quick message to say a big thank you to the Running for Real team. While I may be the face of Running for Real and the voice behind the podcast, there are a group of people who are working tirelessly to provide everything that runners could need within our community to make our community stronger, better, and evolve and grow and learn from one another. We are working really hard to make Running for Real the place we believe it can be within our community. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone on our team. That is Victoria, Stacy, Sandy, Sally, Maria, Kelsey, Kat, Jeremy, and Erica. I appreciate each and every one of you and the hard work that you put in. Now let's get back to the show. So thankful to Juno for her time with us today and for the weird and wonderful internet for connecting us. I really hope if you haven't tried a Together run out, you will give it a try after this. It really is powerful and something special. I hope if you haven't already watched some of Juno's work or seen her behind the scenes, I hope you will go to do that and check out what she's up to. And I will give you links to some of that in the show notes, and you can find that by going to runningforreal.com/episode 317. You can also find links to our sponsors in there. And I want to tell you a little bit about those. Just as a reminder, you can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 plus 5 free travel packs when you sign up for Athletic Greens at athleticgreens.com/Tina. I also want to thank Tracksmith for sponsoring this episode. You can use code TINA15 to get free shipping and to make sure 5% of whatever you spend goes to my favorite nonprofit, Runners for Public Lands. And finally, did you sign up for the newsletter? Have you checked out a Together run? Are you someone who is working through amenorrhea? You will definitely be interested in what we have going on over at Running for Real. As I mentioned, the newsletter is the best way to stay in touch with us, and you can sign up at runningforreal.com. I will also put a link to the website in general so that you can just go Check it out at your own time. And thank you so much for listening, my friends. I'll see you on Monday for our next Together run, on Wednesday for a weekly stride, and then a regular episode again next week. See you then.